So we are getting into our topic, and we're on Proverbs chapter 1, verse 2. And we're talking about knowing wisdom and instruction and perceiving the words of understanding. And what we're doing is laying a foundation here for us to understand what wisdom truly is. And if you want to go back to the previous episodes, you could do this. We are at the 11th episode. You could go back and you can check that out and see what we've been talking about thus far. But I'm laying a foundation, and it's a very important foundation, because for us to understand the book of Proverbs, we must understand that God is our Father. And that is, looking at this book, we know that Solomon wrote most of the book. I think there might be a chapter at the end that might be questionable. But Solomon wrote the book, and he wrote it to his sons. And he wrote it to the young men out there. And so this is highly relevant, because on the spiritual side, as we read this, we should read it from a father to a son. And that is that our Father has words for us, words of encouragement, words of admonition, words of warning, danger, and all of these different things. And so to thoroughly understand the rest of the topic that we're going to cover over these months is to thoroughly understand that the Father is speaking. When you open up this book, think of it like this: that God the Father is speaking to me, his son, his child, to give me wisdom, encouragement, instruction, correction. Okay? And so we're going to talk about that through the rest of this episode, and then we'll probably get into moving on in the verses. But verse 2 there, to know wisdom and instruction, to perceive the words of understanding. So God is the Father. He is here to us to experience, know, and to be intimately acquainted with wisdom, and that we would know instruction, that we'd be willing and open to his instruction and perceive the words of understanding. So God is our parent. God is our Father. So what I want to do in this episode is to really destroy some false concepts of fatherhood. And we get these because we live in a fallen world. And we're in an environment where fathers fail. Fathers miss the mark. Fathers fail to represent God upon this earth. And we can only look at the communities that are full of fatherlessness and see the devastating effects of absentee fathers, right? And so destroying these concepts is really looking at the common modality or the common mindset of fathers that are, inside of the world today, and ask ourselves, have we projected those mindsets upon God? And the first one is the authoritarian. The authoritarian father, he favors and enforces strict obedience. The only thing that is on this father's mind is that you obey him. And we have projected this mindset upon God, and that he's only concerned. Now, of course, God wants you to yield to the Spirit, and because he's all-knowing and he knows the path and he knows which way to walk, and he has your best interests at heart. So we know that God wants us to yield to him. But the authoritarian says the only thing that he cares about is that you obey. Now, I want you to think about that for a minute. As a father, you can relate to this, to your child. Now, is the only thing that you care about with your child is that they obey you? Is that the only thing that matters to you? And you look at that and you say, well, no, a lot of things matter to me. I'm not strictly wanting obedience only, right? But somehow we being evil, we wouldn't even adopt that mindset, but we project that mindset upon God. And here's the reality. That if God wanted 100% obedience, he would not have made man. He would not have created us in his image with the free will and to be sovereign like he is. That means is that we have the ability to act and to do certain behaviors when and where we want to, right? God would have never created a human with that capabilities if his ultimate intention was control and obedience. That would just be something he would not do. And unless he wanted to be frustrated all the time, right? And so we see and understand that this authoritarian concept that requires strict obedience is a fatherhood that we have seen in the world. You know, the strict military parent who has everything, every jot and tittle crossed, and all of these different things, and everybody walks the line. If anybody steps out of line, they get their butt beat, and all of these things. We know how this plays out. We've seen it. We've had fathers like that, or we've seen it, inside of the world. So this father concept is only really concerned about obedience, and he doesn't have any concern for the wishes and the opinions of others, right? He's very domineering. He's he's a dictator. He isn't concerned about what anybody else wants. And this is a father that uses only punishment, right? And you see the kids. I've seen them, in public with their fathers, and they are well behaved. They don't act up. They just sit there, they're respectful, and they do what they're told. And they do what they're told because of the fear and the intimidation of what would happen if they didn't. And so they might have good behavior, but the good behavior is only because of the fear of punishment. And they're scared. They step out of line and they are going to get hurt. And this is the way mafia operates. This is the way gangs operate. This is the way some political climates operate. And that is, if you dissent, if you voice your opinion, if you have an idea that is contrary to the party, they'll whack you. And that is literally, figuratively, and reality. Inside of the mafia, the way they operate, they operate on this thing. It is a dictatorship. The only thing that we want is strict adherence to what the boss wants. And the orders get carried down from the boss to the underboss to the soldiers to the acquaintances, right? And so we see that system and that modality, and it's taking place in church. And we somehow think that this is the way God operates, that he's this dictator father who only wants to use fear and punishment to get his way. Now, I do believe that, God has set up the law of sowing and reaping, and he will not be mocked. Whatever a man sows, that he will also reap. But that doesn't mean that God's going around punishing us all the time. We punish ourselves. And if you experience the depths of addiction and all of this stuff, the consequences that have came into your life is because the seeds that you were sowing and the actions that you were doing. And so you got certain results and certain consequences. God didn't need to step off the throne to come down and punish you because you were doing a fine job just by yourself, right? And so getting out of this concept, you know what, that God is not this authoritarian. If we violate the rules, he's not going to punish us in a severe manner. That this is the mindset that punishment is the answer to everything. And if that were the case, then there wouldn't be so much recidivism rate inside of America, where people that go to prison, they often return, right? And they go through punishments. They go to the hole. They get deprived of liberty and happiness and all of these different things, and they get punished severely. And of course, they continue on the path that they're on. And we know and understand that punishment alone does not accomplish behavior change. And so coming out of this authoritarian mindset will help us a lot. This is the kind of father that says, you know what, I don't really care what's going on in my child's life. I don't really care the reason behind what they did. A good, hard, severe butt whipping will fix it really quick. And so we project that upon God, and we look at our misbehaviors, right? The times where we fall short, the times where we don't measure up, and we come to the conclusion that God is going to give this severe whooping that is going to soon teach us a lesson that we won't soon forget. And we project this dictatorial God, Father, upon God. If there's anything wrong with my child, I'll beat it out of him. It doesn't matter how much punishment or beating you give, as long as you get results, right? These are the authoritarian father mindset. All that matters is conformity. And we think God has that same mindset, that the only thing that he's concerned about is us conforming to his will. And it's kind of sick. You hear these fathers say, because I said so, because this is the way it's going to be. It's my way or the highway. And I don't really care if you like me. The only thing that I really concerned about is that you respect me. I don't care about love. I don't care about communication. The only thing that I want for you is to fall in line. And we have churches operate in this fashion that the rules, the regulations are more important than the people. This is a kind of father that dictates where their kids go to college, dictates what kind of relationship and wife they have, dictates what kind of job and future that they hold, and is very controlling and very domineering. And we see this kind of fatherhood. Jesus says this. It says, you know that the rulers of the Gentiles, they lord it over them. And those who are great exercise authority over them. Yet it should not be so among you. Whoever desires to become great among you must be your servant. And whoever desires to be first among you must be the slave. So what he was saying and establishing here is that fatherhood and leadership is all about serving. If you look at everything in the Bible and what God has accomplished and provided for man, he became a servant. And he laid down his life that we can come into the family and come into the fold. And that is far, far different from this dictator mindset that we have. The next one is the permissive. Now, I've had a permissive father, and this father, it's just the flip side of the same coin. We have the dictators on one side and the permissives on the other. It's the yin and the yang. And neither of them are very effective. I've had a permissive father that, he was only concerned about relating to me and being like a friend, and doing drugs together and all of these different things. And there was no guidelines. There was no standards. There wasn't, it was kind of a laid back sort of relationship. Everything was cool. Everything was happy. There was no confrontations. There was this enabling that you would participate in your kids' problems and help them actually achieve the lust and the desires that they wanted. So there's no boundaries. They're besties. They're buddies, right? And we see this kind of fatherhood play out. And I'm telling you, man, we project this fatherhood style upon God, that he's our bestie, right? And that he is there. He's the cool God. He's the hippie God. He's the rock star God, right? And he becomes the father with no boundaries. Anything goes. Partake. Do what you want. He's very false with this loving all grace message that he's here to give you everything that you want. And you'll have that life on easy street, and everything is wonderful, and everything is peachy, and all of these things. And he's your personal lover. This has been propagated inside of evangelical circles, that we're to relate to God as this personal, intimate lover, and all of these different things that are taking place. And we have projected this laid back, this permissive style of fatherhood that we have seen in the world, or we may have had ourselves, and we project it upon God. So here's what we have. We have on the far right, we have this very dictator, rules, regulations. This is what is important. I'll beat this into you. And then on the left side here, we have the permissive, the I love you. Nothing you could have. You're wonderful. Nothing you ever do is wrong. You're just wonderful, and you're a beautiful soul. And don't let anybody tell you that you're not wonderful. But the reality is if you are doing very negative behaviors and you are hurting people, I can tell you that you're not wonderful, right? And that's what this reality fails to really communicate. And here is another one, and that is the uninvolved. And man, we have really projected this upon God. But this is the fatherhood style that is too busy, right? He's too concerned with the things that he has at work. He's too concerned with everything that he has to do. The kids kind of like non-exist. There's not much of communication going on. And so we see this projected upon God also. That he really doesn't care. That he is not concerned. That he is... in this reality that he is some kind of spectator just watching the things that are going on. And so he's not participating in life together with his family, but he has withdrawn from it and he is, somewhere else. And this mindset and this belief system has definitely been projected upon God. Well, we fail to understand that the very hairs in our head are all numbered. And there's not even a sparrow that falls to the ground without our Father recognizing that it took place. And so he's very attentive and very attention to detail. He knows what's going on and he knows what's taking place. So here's what we got to understand, is that these three concepts of fatherhood, they are not connected to the reality of who God is. He doesn't just want compliance. He is concerned about with your feelings. He is concerned about with what you want. He is not the rock star father who's only concerned about being your friend and has no standards and no limitations and stuff like that. And he's not the father who stands aloof, that isn't really concerned with what is going on into your life. And so in the next episode, I'm going to talk to you about the kind of father that you can expect to come through the words of these pages. This is a father that wants to teach wisdom. This is a father that wants to encourage, support, and uplift. But this is a father that also wants to provide structure, discipline, and correction, because that is what we need to stay on the course. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Hit subscribe and hit like, and I will see you again tomorrow. Peace.